Hey y'all, it is Moonlight Cowboy, and today I have a very long tutorial, so my apologies on that. Usually I try and keep them sub 30 minutes, but I thought that this was really important to share. So I discovered a way to do walls as floors, and it's going to be pretty detailed on how I do it, but I really like the results on this. This is going to be for those elite builders, the ones that know how to do all of the tricks, and they're looking for a new way to add some pizzazz to their camps. For those who are more novice, just be patient with this process because it is a bit trying. It's going to take a lot of perfection to get correct. But again, if you see these images, I think it looks really cool, and I think it's worthwhile to do too, because you'll have something that really nobody has really done before to this level. So we're going to start with making the actual blueprint. First things first, the easy part, probably the easiest part of this whole process. We're going to just create a foundation with 4 walls around it. So from here, I'm adding a catwalk and a foundation, catwalk foundation, just to get some spacing ideas here. And you'll see that we're going to use this technique a lot here in a little bit. But for now, I'm just getting myself kind of set up with what my idea for this was. So as you see here, I'm putting my initial walls in, and I'm doing it at quarter intervals. Now, the reason I'm doing it at quarter intervals is because I only have to I'm going to have to free place some walls here, and I'm only going to have to do it perfect about 5 or 6 times. If I can get 5 perfect placements after trial and error, then I can make this blueprint. So that's what you kind of have to tell yourself. If you can do this 5 or 6 times perfectly, you too can make this blueprint. So I say it's for elite builders. It can be for somebody who just has a lot of patience. One thing I always say to people in my chat or in comments is that I feel like I'm an average builder with an above average patience. I guess that's what makes me, air quotes, an elite builder, but it's not because I'm doing anything special or I have some kind of magic gift. I have a lot of patience, right? All right, so now I had those walls in place, and this is where the free place part comes, where we have to get this perfect. So I'm using the lip of the foundation there to try and gauge how I should place my foundation by trying to space it out just a little bit. Okay. And there we go. We got the first one in, and that's about the spacing I'm looking for to get into place. So that's the easy part, doing the first spacing. Now you want to be really careful with the spacing. Normally I say, you have a little bit of free play in this, but the blueprint can only be so big. And when we're done with this, we're actually going to completely max out your blueprint. So if you have even one too many walls or walls basically, because we're going to use vines here in a little bit, it's going to require vines, walls, and a small camp item. And even just one of too many of any of those things will mean you won't be able to create your blueprint. It'll be like one wall short. But you see there, that's pretty much the perfect spacing. So we're going to look at it, because the other thing I'm looking at too is the sides of the walls, which I can tell you right now that was not perfect for the side of the walls. So the reason why I have the two walls on the side, because we're not going to keep those in the actual blueprint, is if I see any walls poking out of either side of those walls, that's kind of my tell that I didn't move this thing perfectly. So we're using the foundation as a guide, and I'm using my free cam to move the foundation. I'm using that bottom toolbar there to make sure that I'm moving it in the right direction. But you'll see here in a minute what I'm talking about, because I do believe I make another mistake with this. But yeah, see, I didn't even get it close enough right at that time, or it was too close, so I didn't get the wall in place right there. So again, it's a lot of micro adjusting. And I'm going to walk you through the whole first step of this, and that's one of the reasons this video takes so long, because a lot of times lately I do get comments saying, oh, you skipped over this and I don't know how you did it. So, I kind of want you to walk through me with this. Now the spacing on that looks really good between the two, but look, see, I have that wall sticking out right there. So I know that that's not going to work for what we need, because this blueprint needs to be close to perfect. Again, at least those first walls in that, I'm going to call them compartments, that first quarter compartment that I made between the walls there, because everything else is going to mirror off of those. All right. So we're trying again here, and just patience wins out here. I know my first wall is about where I want it to be. That's too close. And again, I'm showing you this because I know that you're going to be like, oh, well, you know, I tried to get it perfect, but I couldn't. And I want you to see that it does actually take the time and investing in this. But you only have to really do this blueprint once. Once you do it the one time, you're good to go. But look, that wall sticking out again like that, that is not what we're looking for. And it looks like I went up a little bit too. So when I say perfect, it really has to be pretty close to perfect. It can't poke up above the other walls, and it can't come out of either side there, because when you try and put it down, it's just not going to look right, and then you'll have basically wasted your time, because this is the only chance you'll have to get it perfect. Once you have all the walls in place, it's going to be really hard to fix it. All right, and yep, wasn't close enough again. I promise you this video will move a lot faster here shortly once we get some of the first few walls into place here. All right, that looks good there. And yeah, we got that in there. So moving forward, we're adding more walls. I have a couple more to go here. As you will see, I basically have added a few more because I didn't want you to see that whole struggle. I mean, you're going to have your own struggle, so you don't need to watch mine, right? But I went ahead and added a few more walls, so we're trying to get the next one in. Okay, there we go. It looks like we're going to click right there. So I have one more to go. Now, when I try and put this last wall in, it's not letting me. So because I'm using doorways, I'll be able to go underneath here and it'll let me snap it in. See, it just snaps right in. And I use doorways when I'm making this because I can just take foundations on and off of the bottom. So don't use like regular walls without doorways. It won't make much sense for you. All right, cool. So we actually have all, look at how perfect that spacing is, by the way. It's really good. So we have all of our walls in the first compartment of this blueprint done. So now all I really need to do is I need to start working off of those, and I'm basically going to use these walls here to create the next set of walls. They're kind of like having a die for a printing machine. See how I can kind of just attach it to one of those walls. See how it kind of skips around that foundation under there, and I can kind of position my character around a little bit to get some like finer touches. So I want to start with that first wall, and then I can just catwalk off of that. And remember that catwalk thing we did kind of in the beginning here? I'm going to do that again because that foundation there should match that wall for each one of those like compartments that I'm making inside of this blueprint. So get our last set of catwalks and foundations into place. And watch this. So I snap that. I removed that wall as you saw. Now I'm going to put this next foundation into place. There we go. And watch, I can just snap another wall right there. And because of how good my spacing is, it's going to match all the way across. Again, getting that first compartment done is going to be the most challenging part of this deal. Everything else after you get that compartment done is really going to be systematic. I don't like doing a lot of blueprints where it's left up to chance. I like to use catwalks for spacing and stuff, but that first compartment does have to be free play. So hopefully you're on your game with the steadiness of your controller to do that. But I promise it gets way easier. So as you see here, I'm just moving on to the next wall. And then I'm going to catwalk off of that and do the exact same thing again. I'm just going to keep doing that until all of my walls are filled. Now, you might run into a scenario where you miss a wall. That's okay. You'll just have to play with the foundations to find where that last wall is. It happened to me when I was doing this. I didn't do it perfectly in getting all of the walls in where they needed to be at the same time, but because I had those first set of walls and as a guide, I could just kind of play around with it until I figured out where that wall was supposed to go. But look, See how perfect that looks? And that's what we're looking for. So if you've gotten this far, excellent job, because I figure about half of the people who normally watch my stuff would probably be like, Moonlight, this is really amazing to look at, but this isn't something that I feel comfortable doing. So we'll do a few more just to give you some context on how this is going to work. And then I believe I saved the footage for the last one that I told you I couldn't get in and we had to play with it. And I'll show you that too. But yeah, this is just, at this point, we're just searching for the right walls to make sure we're getting them into place. Like I said before, as long as you have that first grouping in, you're in really good shape. So same process, and this is just kind of a rinse, wash, rinse, wash, repeat process with these foundations, just like this. But I think if you've made it again this far, you are understanding how this is working here. Yep, get another wall in, and yeah, you can see I kind of skipped around a little bit, but you can always go back as long as you don't delete those first set of walls that you did in that compartment. But yeah, like, look. Come on, get in there. There we go. It can be a little tricky to get it in, but they do. I like using these the red barn doors, only because they don't cost a lot of resources when I have to break them 100 times. But also they are a little slimmer, and they're usually the ones that you would do the double wall trick anyway with. All right. So if you notice right here, I have that last wall I'm trying to get in. So you can see I have all the walls in but that last one. So I'm kind of playing with the distance of this foundation. And I'm testing it to see where it should go by moving it around a little bit. I'm going to remove that and just catwalk off so I can give myself the space to work there. And let's see if this was the right one. I gotta go like one more over, it looks like. Nope, maybe I got it here. And like I said, when it gets that tight, you just go through the doorway. And this is the initial part of the blueprint. This was the hardest part. If you can make it through this, you can do the whole thing, no problem. Okay? So what I'm doing from here to make my life easier is I'm actually going to switch these over to the glass walls, the full glass walls, not the doorways. And I have a reason for my madness of doing it this way. There might be a better way that comes down the line, but this way for getting the initial blueprint done worked really well for me. So once we have all of those switched out, I'll leave that one as the red barn wall. So if you notice, by the way, when I was doing this blueprint, I have one wall fixated to go the opposite way. There's a couple of reasons for that. That's kind of a placeholder for me, so I know which direction I should place my blueprint. But also, so that way on both sides there, it's got the wall edge, the like outside of the wall facing out. So from here, what I did was, because I used those glass walls, I can just destroy them, add a set of vines, destroy the next one, add a set of vines, and I just keep going with this. The big key on this part, the only thing you have to worry about is don't destroy too many walls and miss placing a set of vines on one of the walls. So you just got to be careful not to like be an overeager McBeaver and destroy two walls instead of just one, because you might not be able to see it through like all of the nonsense there. So essentially, adding my vines, adding my walls. And we just keep continuing this process. For that last wall, the one that we did not change into red, I'm going to add the vines onto the other side of that wall. So we're almost through this glass corridor, I guess is the best way to put that. And once we get through there, we'll add that last vine to the other outside red barn wall that's still up. And then we will have the lion's share of our blueprint completed. Looking pretty crazy, right? So this is really fun. Hopefully you guys got to watch the video last week with the camp that I did with these floors. I thought it came out amazing, and there's so many different combinations you can do to make really cool floors with this. One thing I failed to do, and I'll probably get that information for you here very shortly in this video, is count out exactly how many walls were actually placed, because it'll be the same amount of walls as you have vines. So I will count that out here and let you know momentarily. And due to the magic of video editing, I can tell you that it was 24 walls total that went up, not counting the ones on the side. The ones on the side are just guides. They are not going to end up being part of this blueprint. So 24 walls going the same direction minus the one on the end, and the 2 on the side go away for this blueprint. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to add the small camp item. I used one of the foundations nearby that I had in place to add a wall and a roof, so that way I can put a small camp item on top of that. And when I do this, what that means is when I blueprint all of this, it'll be that duck will sit at the exact level of whatever foundation or wherever you're trying to place this thing. So I just hit blueprint all, and then I had to separately blueprint that the red barn wall, those vines, and then the duck. And again, your blueprint will then be very full. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm going to go ahead and show you one other way you can do this, and this is by adding roofs onto the bottom of this thing in case you didn't have that foundation in place. I lost one of those roofs into the ground, sadly, but you can see what I'm talking about here. So I use the roofs to add a half wall into a perfect position to align with this build. And then I can just go ahead and add my wall and do my roofs from here too. Or I could always come in with the foundation at the bottom and then blueprint it that way too, because I might want to use this instead of using this as floors. You can actually use this as a hallway blueprint. These make really cool narrow hallways too, but as you see here, I just got that into place to do that blueprint with the duck there in that regard as well. So in placing this, it's not going to necessarily let you place it super close to your foundation, so I'm just going to try and place it as close as possible, and the reason being is the vines are going to get in the way. But there's workarounds for all of that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just changing all these walls to the abandoned mindset. I could have used the new corroded concrete walls. Those are really great for like losing out on that collision. Oh, it looks like I might have switched that to a different style door. Anyways, long story short, I'm going through the process of getting all these vines out of position. And one way you can do it is just by going in by free cam and being meticulous. Another way that you will see later on in the video is the actual right way to do this, which is to go underground to pull the vines out while they're doorways or whatever wall you're looking to do. So yeah, it looks like I actually used the Helvetia set at first for this, but we do end up going with the abandoned mindset because again, you can snap things through that set really nicely, just like with the corroded concrete wall set. So right now, this is just me going through and trying to grab the vines from inside the door because I'm so lazy, I'm working extra hard because I don't want to have to build an underground system to do it right now. Yeah. So once I removed all my vines, I can add a roof over here like so to try and make sure I have the right level. And we're going to do the same thing with the walls again. If I can find them. There we go. So what I'm just doing is making sure that my walls are in the perfect position, or my foundations will be in the perfect position, excuse me. So I'm just kind of walking it down I'm going to remove what I did there. I'm going to use a catwalk at the bottom, and now I should be able to get my foundation in a perfect spot. And because we removed that vine, the vine sets, I should be able to snap foundations. This is how you're going to get them in perfect placement with the perfect height all the way around. Because fun fact, because of the way we did our blueprint in the first place, it is the exact shape of a foundation all the way around. So look how nice that looks as like a centerpiece for your house. Obviously you would change out the flooring, I call it flooring, the wall type to match kind of like this. And that current turned out to look pretty darn cool, right? So, maybe something for your bathroom or a kitchen. Again, the options are limitless when it comes to this blueprint. Well, near limitless. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you is when you are trying to use these walls as floors, you will not actually be able to place anything on them. It won't allow you to place anything on top of walls, as we know. So how are they actually then usable floors other than to walk on? So what we're going to do is I'm going to get a roof into position. And there we go. And what I'm trying to do is get it to be just a little tiny bit lower than the tops of those walls. And it's not going to let me place this roof right now because it's like thinking, oh, I want to snap to the walls instead of snapping to the roof. As you see here, it's a little bit higher. So just to get around that, we're going to go ahead and remove it. And then I'm going to turn some of these into the abandoned mine set here in a minute. First, I'm getting rid of all the vines, and this is another easy way to do it. You could just turn it into the pavilion walls, and then because those aren't actual like regular walls, you can just go in and grab all the blueprints, or all the vines. So anyhow, now I'm turning it into the abandoned mine walls, and I'm not going to have to do a lot of them. I'm going to do probably the first 5 or 6 of them because I just need enough room for this roof to snap to this other roof instead of trying to snap to the walls. And once these are destroyed, although it has the option of snapping to the walls, it's going to gravitate towards snapping to that roof first. And you'll see here. Yeah, I don't need to do much. And watch, snaps right into, see it looks like it wants to snap into the other walls, but then you can easily get it to snap into that other roof. And look, you can't see it, but we'll now be able to place stuff on here because it's just under that wall line. And I did a tutorial on merging with roofs before. It's kind of the same premise as merging with roofs. So anybody interested in seeing how to use roofs to merge items, it's a pretty cool tutorial. But as you can see, I can snap walls to it going, as long as it's going that way. And then to get them to go perpendicular with those walls, I would just use a series of catwalks to move the walls around. But it's basically like a foundation at this point. But yeah, as you can see, I can just add whatever I want. And that's how I did the floor blueprint. Now, I'm going to show you how I use this floor blueprint to make the build that I just had. And I'm only going to show you the floor part. And since this part, I also found another nice and easy way to do this. But as you see, I'm turning them all into the abandoned mine set. And once I have those all turned into the abandoned mine set, I'm going to have to destroy them. But first, we have to remove the vine. So I created a little underground way to go underground. And for those of you who are concerned about going underground because Bethesda terms of service, literally heard people from Bethesda that have said that they're not going after people that do that as long as they are not trying to do something to exploit the game to somehow get extra things or to harm another player's playing experience outside of obviously trap cans, because those are allowed, right? So because I use the abandoned mine set, I can just kind of walk through here and grab all these and make my life really easy. All right, so now I'm also going to take a pressure plate and a mat with my flamethrower there, so that way I can destroy those walls, because otherwise it would be sitting too high up. Once I get that into position, I'm going to start destroying them. Now, the other thing too is I'm going to leave them destroyed for probably most of the build, until at least for the floors part, because as long as they're destroyed, I can still snap catwalks to them, and that's how it looks when it is destroyed. But as you can see, I can just kind of move my catwalks around freely on top of those roofs. And this is me starting the other side, because I'm not just going to go one side deep. I'm going to go like double-sided on this. And I'm doing this the very tedious way right now. And I'll show you an easier way to do it later. And the reason I'm doing it tedious is because I wanted all of the walls to align perfectly with the wall right next to it. So that way, when these floors are down in the camp, you're not going to see like a whole lot of like mismatched slats or walls or things of that nature, because at this point, if you're doing all of this and then like your floors look kind of janky when you're done with them, then it defeats the whole purpose of this, right? So anywho, as you see here, what I'm doing is I'm kind of placing the catwalk, and sometimes I'm going to have to kind of edge it forward a little bit. And I may have to rotate it too. As you'll see here in a minute, once I get the right position, I kind of rotate to get the catwalk into the right place. Because it's always going to try and snap to the walls. And sometimes it's not the wall you want it to snap to move it forward. There we go. We'll try that and see if that works. Also, be very careful not to accidentally delete one of your walls that you've placed. I was fortunate enough to not have done that, but I came really close a bunch of times, so I took a lot of time when I was deleting stuff. I didn't just go haphazard with it. Anywho, as we're setting up for this, I'm getting my catwalks into the right place to make sure that I can get them out. So sometimes they'll be too finicky because it's just going to want to snap to the wall. But as you see here, you know, I just kind of finessed it a little bit. I moved my catwalks into different positions. And then I was finally able to get the catwalk into place. See, up, I had it. And then one more try here. There we go. And then look, I'll be able to snap this wall in here. There we go. Perfect. And they're not all going to be this difficult. I'll actually show you the way that I found through this process that actually made my life a lot easier here in a moment. But it is a little tedious to get to do it this way, to do them one by one like this, but it is the best way to ensure that all of the slats, again, I'm just going to call them slats because it's the easiest way to do it, are aligned with the ones right next to them. So for now, I'm just working off of the other side. Again, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. And we're going to try and go this route one more time. There we go. It's kind of funny too watching these catwalks go on here, because if somebody comes in and is watching you build this, they're going to be like, what in the holy heck is going on? Because they're just going to see catwalks moving around like crazy, but because they're not actually like seeing like the destroyed part, they're going to be like, what is this like wizardry that's going on in front of me right now? And I know this because I had a couple people drop by and drop those question mark emotes. I'd say this a lot in my comments, but about 8 times out of 10 when I'm building, I'm doing it in like an actual public server and not my private server, because I don't mind if people are watching me do this. So as you see, when you rotate it, see how it pops it out a little bit sometimes like that? That's kind of what we're looking for. And sometimes you have to move your character around in a different position to make it happen. But yeah, I usually was doing a lot of the rotation on this part to get it to line up perfectly. Again, it is a little tedious doing it this way, but you will see some easier ways, because one thing too, with building, it's always good to have multiple ways of doing something. So in this case, what was happening was I could not get it to snap to the foundation where I wanted. So what I did was I went out going the other way, and watch this. It'll snap just fine when I do this. And then I just do a little rotate on this thing, and it should snap where I want it to. See how it popped out that time? And that's what I was looking for. Yeah, of course. If I didn't fall there, we'd be in better shape. Now, of course, I have my flamethrower in a good position there where I can destroy that wall. And I just keep rinse, washing, and repeating. Now, I talked about easier ways to do this. Really, if you find the right position, you can just hover over that thing 9 times out of 10 and get your walls into place. Just hover, grab your catwalk, the small one or whatever catwalk you want, and you just keep going over and over again like that. And that's how you're going to be able to do it 90% of the time, but I showed you the other ways in case you hit that once in, like, you know, maybe 20 walls or 10 walls. That gives you a little bit of problem. But you'll see here this goes a lot smoother. I think part of the reason why I did it this way first, A, was because I was still experimenting with it, and B, I didn't cut it out in editing because I wanted you to see that it is a difficult process, but don't give up, because it can be done. If I can do it, anybody can do it. All right. So we're getting our next catwalk into place. We're just going to do this a couple more times, and I'm going to show you as it goes by a lot faster, as I even myself was learning this process, and I was able to get it down. Now, what I do now from most of the point going forward is I'm just aligning the catwalk so I know where the catwalk should go. I put a catwalk behind it and bring it in one extra, like click further forward. See? Like, well, really it should be one click forward. I think I went one too far, and we're going to see that here in a moment. This way. I'm using that wall again as a guide. Look, as long as it snaps to that catwalk, we're in pretty good shape. And that looks like it's lined up pretty well. Let's see. There we go. We got it in, and now we can snap in our next wall. Destroy it, rinse, wash, repeat. Now I'm going to show you taking it, going a little bit further with this. We're going to do the wall and going across from it. And then I promise you from here, this part is obviously it's already gotten way easier, but I'm going to show you it getting even easier from here. At the end of this video, make sure you stay tuned, because there is a really cool epiphany I had today about how to make this even easier for everybody. And I think that part is going to make this a game changer. But yeah, just snap that wall in, nothing but net. And that's how most of these walls should go, minus the lag time there. That's how they should go. This should be a fairly easy process. Alright, so now it gets a lot faster because I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this. So I'm getting my catwalk in position here. Behind it. I'm going to move this thing up a couple of clicks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my catwalk into place. And I'm going to rotate that puppy until or try and move it until it gets into position. Sometimes when you're trying to place it initially, it's not going to go. But then once you place it and then try and move it up a notch, it will go. And you're going to see that a few times. And that should be like what happens most of the time for you when you're doing this part. Now that that wall is destroyed, place the catwalk, and I drag it forward one. And before, when I was trying to place it, it wasn't going to snap. into place. But when I placed it and then I tried to snap it into place or move it, it worked just fine. Again, this, I'm showing you all the hard ways, but I'm also showing you, like, this should be a fairly seamless process for you. And I know I keep saying that over and over again, because I do. I want to encourage you guys to do this blueprint. I don't know if I'm the first person to come out with this technique like this. I haven't seen one if I'm not. So if there is somebody who's come out with a technique where you're making walls as floors, please leave that in the comments. And I'd like to acknowledge that too. But to my knowledge, I think this is the first time anybody's done this. So there's that. I always say that with trepidation because I always don't want to step on somebody else's toes, right? Alright, so get that into position, one more click, and then we're running into a scenario where it's not going to want to click over, right? So this is where I had to maneuver my character a little bit, or my position of my camera, and I was able to get it to snap. Rotating it works too. You're going to see that here in just a second as well with the rotation. You just basically, when you have the catwalk in your hands, you just keep rotating it until it pops into position. And I know you saw a little bit of an example of that before, but there's more than one way to do this. So we're doing the other side now. And see, now I'm doing the rotation thing, and watch how it eventually, like when I rotate enough, when the camera's going the right way, look, see it popped up front? There we go. That's what we're looking for. So that's the other way to do this, the easy peasy way. All right, so now we have all of our floors in place, or I'm calling them floors now, but you know what I'm saying, the walls. And now I just want to get a roof into place, kind of like we did when we were doing the blueprint, and I was showing you that example. This time all of them are destroyed. So now I'm just checking to see if this thing is just slightly lower than the wall, or than the walls as floors, and it is. So I feel pretty good about that. So in order to get this to work, I'm going to run my roofs going the opposite direction. And to do that, there's a neat little trick here. So I put on that corner piece roof, and I'm putting on another corner piece roof like so, and watch, this roof will be flipped going the other way. And so now I can just kind of slap those roofs into place, and everything from here is gravy town. Boom. We can get rid of that guy now. I like to work clean. And yeah, I'm just going to snap these rest of these in here. And because it's going the opposite direction, there's no chance of it snapping to a wall by accident, and it's going perpendicular, right? So that's the way I like to do it. And boom. Now all I have to do is flatten these roofs, and when I do, should have no issues with being able to set things onto my wall floors. It's so weird to say it like that, wall floors, right? So now it's time for some cleanup, and we're gonna flatten these here now, I believe, once I get rid of this last one. There we go. And watch, these things pop right under there. That is exactly what we're looking for. If you make a mistake at this part with the roofs, it's not the end of the world. What you would do is you would just go in with your free cam and re-angle those roofs back out and remove them and try again. But you do want those roofs to be sitting out under the walls just a touch, because if not, then you're just going to see roof, and there was no point in doing this in the first place. I think that looks pretty good. And this is kind of what I go with for that build that I put out last week. Very cool. And that was the final result for the floors that I did. I ended up moving around just a touch. and changing them up a little bit, but you get the idea, and it came out really good. I thought this is something that makes the build look one of a kind. It is a huge budget drain. In fact, I used 190 walls in this build, which was nearly 40% of my budget. But for a smaller build, this can be really cool, and you can have something super unique if you did it 4x4. In this build, I did it 8x2. You can do something really cool. Now, getting doors into place on this is going to be a pain in the butt. So what I did was I added mats, because the roof line is not sitting where the doorway would go. So I just added mats, and I kept playing with the mats until I got the right height for a door to get the support that it needs. Because you all know, for you who do custom builds like this, if that door just isn't just right, sitting flush with whatever the environment is, it's not going to place, right? So can't get that door on. I try all kinds of doors, doesn't work. One that I've had a lot of luck with is the laser door. That one seems to be a little bit easier to put on than some of the other doors. So I'm actually working my way to the laser door right now, because that one has been very kind to me over the past. So if I know I can't get that one on, I know I'm going to struggle. So we're going to move some mats around a little bit more. Try and change up the support. The cool thing about this too is once you get it right in this spot, you should be able to move the mat, the initial mat that these are sitting on, and get your door in place in other spots in your build. So we're still struggling here. So I'm showing you this because you will probably struggle with this too. And it's just kind of touch and go. Alright, so we're going to adjust the mats again. See if that works. Still not working. And notice I'm hitting rotate on that because sometimes it'll place going in one direction instead of the other direction. So like sometimes it'll place like going in instead of out, which can work depending on what the direction is that you need it to go. So moving the mat around a little bit too might help. No dice there. I wouldn't be showing you this if it didn't work, I promise. And this will also help for those of you who are building on like pre-existing structures. Sometimes you can't get your mats or I'm sorry, your doors into place. If you find that there's a gap between your door frame and like whatever the ground is, this can be that thing. So look, I got those mats in a perfect spot. And now I can place my door. Of course, I'm not going to go with the laser grid door as my door for this build. That would be obnoxious. So we are going to go ahead and change that door, because once you have a door in place, you can change it to virtually any door in your arsenal. And that looks good. Now for here, I want to try and get the door in place, or get the mat in place there, but because I already know over there what worked, I know it was just that one gray rug and then these two mats on the on opposite sides to create that support. I know that all I'm going to really have to do is try that and maybe play with it just a touch to get this to work. Yep. And see how when I rotated it out going the other way, it wasn't going to sit. I could have adjusted the mats a little bit differently to get it to sit, but for the door that I was going to use, it was fine. Alright, so this is the coolest part of this tutorial. Thank you for those of you who stuck through this whole thing. So I turned all the walls here. I turned them all they still have the vines attached, but I turned them all into the concrete, the corroded concrete walls. Okay. I'm going to take one of these floors and make sure that this works as long as I can snap these foundations through. And you're like, what is the point, Moonlight, if I'm going to use foundations here? Why would I use these roofs anyway? And this, I think this will be the part that like really adds an aha moment. So I'm going to repair that wall, the outer wall, and I'm going to add some catwalks. Because I'm going to add a floor to this. So instead of using a roof, I'm going to use a floor, but this actually serves an even cooler purpose than just having this as a different type of support. And then again, I'm just trying to get it to be slightly lower than than the walls are. Yeah, like that. That should be good. I could have gone up maybe a touch higher, but it'll work. Just got to be really careful. You want to make sure it stays on center when you're doing this, because this is actually going to be a blueprint. No, that's the exact level that they need to be on, so we're going to go back to that, and hopefully that will be good enough. Maybe try and get it a little closer. And I think the alignment's off on this thing already. So we're going to do this again. I promise you this is going to be pretty impressive. Alright. This time I'm going to go with my gut. And I'm just going to lower it a touch. You can do this manually too. Like you see here, I'm kind of doing it manually. I'm just getting it as low as it'll go without snapping back into place, like that. Alright. So, I'm putting my foundation through there, and now I'm blueprinting all of these things. I am not using a small camp item to make this blueprint. My foundation just became my small camp item. Again, you're like, why would I ever do it like this? There is a reason. I recommend having the other blueprint for doing the hallways or for doing really meticulous work. But when you want to make your life easy, watch this. So I can now snap other foundations to this wall blueprint. Okay, so instead of having to like eyeball it and get it as close as you can, I literally can just snap to them. Now, you might have to destroy a couple of walls, like so, to get them to place and to get them to snap in. But look at this. Once I do that, boom, get those right in there. And this makes your life so much easier. No issues whatsoever, unless of course you're running into a fence right there, which is what I was doing. Now here's another cool part. Look at that. You can actually snap your blueprint to your blueprint, and like as if it was an actual foundation, which technically it is, but because of the snapping physics of a foundation, now you want to be careful to make sure they snap the right direction, because if you don't, this is what will happen. So you want them all going the exact same way. But look, because I didn't, one of the foundations, or one of the foundation roof floor blueprints, what have you, I had one that went the opposite direction, so then the walls didn't line up with that. But if you snap it right, look, that wall snapped perfect, but then the other one didn't. So just word of caution. And yeah, for those of you who have stuck around for this whole thing, thank you so much. I really hope you're able to do something cool with it. I really want to see some links and some pictures or some videos of some people doing some really cool things with this blueprint. I hope this changes the way that you build, or at least inspires you to do something different with your builds. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a blessed day and stay safe out there. Thanks again. Bye-bye.